OTBOT. Still trying to convince Musso to go see Fellowship of the Ring with me in IMAX Saturday night. Some random names entering the mix. We mentioned Elvis Gerbach yesterday, Peerless Price today, Rashaan Salam. How about that? Devin Steve in the chat. Kajana Carter, former number 1 overall pick. But right now, let's talk some Saints, let's talk some Trey Hendrickson, maybe a little Pelicans as well. With the guy Jeff Duncan at @JeffDuncan_ on Twitter. Catch all of his work on The Athletic, which you already know. I love The Athletic. Shameless plug, theathletic.com/hold that podcast. If you want a great sign-up deal. Jeff, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Hey, T-Bob. I love you bring up the name Rashaan Salam. It brings back memories when I was working up in Monroe, Louisiana.
Wow.
At the News Star. And Louisiana Monroe, back then they were Northeast Louisiana, made the move to 1A. They'd been 1AA, and their first game was against Colorado in Boulder. And if you've ever been out there, it's spectacular stadium setting, Flatiron Mountains in the background, Ralphie running out before the game. And the first series of the game, I think Colorado was ranked 3rd in the country. Rashaan Salam fumbled a snap, fumbled exchange. Northeast recovers, kicks a field goal. They're up 3-0 in their first game. They're going crazy, of course, taking photos of the scoreboard. I think the final was I think it was like 51-3 final, but it was a great moment in Northeast Louisiana football history because they were playing their first game ever and were upsetting the Buffaloes for a small period of time. Great memory.
I mean, is there anything more depressing than if you love college football, right? And it's become so top heavy, and if you look at Alabama, it looks like it's only going to become more top heavy. But like looking back at the Natty winners from like the early '90s and around that time, I mean, it used to be so much more diverse, right? You got Colorado and Georgia Tech tying in '90, Washington and Miami in '91, then Bama, then Florida State, Nebraska, Michigan gets in later on, Tennessee, Oklahoma, and now it's just Alabama and Clemson constantly.
Yeah,
time and time.
I hate it.
Yeah,
I think it's the worst. I'm not for socialism of college football, but the whole structure and apparatus of athletic competition is built on kind of an even playing field, so to speak. And there's none of that in college football.
That's a
the
great
Blue
point.
Bloods have legislated out everyone's competition. There's just no way to compete. So much greed. The Power 5 programs broken off from the rest of the NCAA, and it's created this kind of country club where they control the membership and they don't want anyone else in because of the money at stake. It drives me crazy.
Yeah, and it's sometimes bad for the sport overall, in my opinion. Talking to Jeff Duncan, again, if you're a Saints fan, I cannot recommend enough checking out Peyton and Breeze, the men who built the greatest offense in NFL history. But, Jeff, I don't necessarily want to talk offense today. I want to start with defense, and I want to start with Trey Hendrickson and his current value. We just talked about it for about 5 or 6 minutes last segment. But I guess the baseline question is, do you think is Trey Hendrickson a pass rusher one, right? Like is he, we use Peerless Price and Eric Moulds randomly, but is he the main option, or is a lot of his success due to being number 2, and how would you be willing to pay him?
Well, history tells us to be wary of players like Trey Hendrickson that kind of have these breakout seasons, especially in the last year of say, their contract. I can remember a guy, if you remember T-Bob a few years back, Paul Kruger, who I think had a breakout year, very similar kind of player, and cashed in free agency and never really duplicated that kind of year. And I think ended up getting released a couple of years later as a cap casualty. I don't know if I'm in the Saints boat, knowing how they operate. I'm sure that they have a value, a number in mind that they're going to offer Trey Hendrickson, knowing full well that when he gets to the open market, he may get something much better, and they cannot match it. And they will stick to their guns on that. They did it with Mark Ingram. They did it with Von Bell, and I expect them to do it again with Hendrickson, even though he was very productive and he's in his prime, and he's a draft pick that they, found in what, the 4th, 5th round? I'm trying to remember, but
I think I read 3rd earlier today, but I was surprised. I didn't realize it was.
Yeah, no, you're right. 103rd pick. You're right. he's just a guy that I think and you have to look at the rest of the roster too. All these things kind of tie together. You've got Marcus Davenport, who you've heavily invested in, who you still have under contract. Obviously, Cam Jordan coming off of a down year. You have to make that decision too. Is he in decline as a player, or was that just kind of an outlier season? All these things, I think, factor into the Trey Hendrickson decision.
Well, and let's talk about Cam Jordan a bit, because I agree with you. I'll be fascinated to see what happens with Hendrickson on the open market. Like, I too wonder if other teams believe that he is truly that number one, or maybe a team's in a position where they just have a little extra money and they think he's not number one, but they can get him over the hump. We'll see what ends up happening to Hendrickson. But like you said, it is all connected. And one of the main reasons why I wouldn't pay Hendrickson is because I don't know that he necessarily opens things up for his teammates, right? I think that Cam Jordan throughout his career definitely has opened things up with the amount of defensive focus that he commands. But it was a down year. What's Cam Jordan's stock going into next year? Where does he stand in terms of the long-term future of the Saints as you're in this kind of transition period to begin with? And look, he's talked about it as well. He was tweeting a couple weeks ago. Look, he's happy for the guys that are making it the first time. But, he wants a piece of that. He wants to be in that Super Bowl, and he's been so close, and he just keeps falling just short.
Yeah, I think next year is a huge year for Cam Jordan. I mean, and I think he knows that. He's a very smart guy. He understands the economics of the NFL, and his contract, while he's still under contract, really makes him vulnerable, I think, after next season to becoming a cap cut or a restructure or taking a pay cut. But he's going to be with the Saints, obviously, next year. He's a team leader. He leads by example with how hard he works in the off season, in the meeting rooms. He's a leader, I know. So this is a guy that I think is going to be an all-timer with the Saints, but his production declined pretty dramatically last season. I don't think there's any denying that. And I think they just have to determine, was that just a sign of things to come, more decline in his play going forward, or was it just kind of a blip on the radar? I know Will Smith had a year like this once, T-Bob, late in his career, and then he bounced back with a couple very productive seasons. In some ways, he and Trey Hendrickson are similar. If you go back and follow Cam Jordan's career, I mean, he didn't just come in and set the world on fire his first year, and he slowly got better every year. And I think that's the catch with Trey Hendrickson. Is he a guy that's developed under Ryan Nielsen, who's such an outstanding developer of talent along the defensive line? He's a guy that championed Trey Hendrickson coming in, and Nielsen, I think, feels like he can probably continue to get that out of him. But I think you're right. I think sometimes we all get caught up in who's the one pass rusher, who's the number two, and sometimes you just got to reward the guys that bring it every game and produce. And I think that is Trey Hendrickson in the Saints' mind.
Yeah.
But in this cap situation they've got right now, it's real. I know that they can do some things to get under it. But the fact is, when you start talking about a pass rusher in this league and the premium on that talent and that trait, I think he's going to cash in with somebody beyond the Saints in this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a weird thing to try to parse through, right? Going from 0 sacks to 5.5 to 14.5 or 13.5. Like, is that an incredible trajectory, or is that a flash in the pan? I guess only time will tell. We're talking to Jeff Duncan at Jeff Duncan _ catches work on The Athletic. Just wrote Peyton and Breezeman, who built the greatest offense in NFL history. Also on the defensive side of the ball, new face joining the staff, Jeff. Chris Richard, a guy who sat out last year, waiting on a coordinator job. Coordinator job never came. He now replaces Aaron Glenn as the secondaries coach. What's your thoughts on the Richard hire?
Yeah, I love that hire. That's a big-time get for the Saints. I know that Dennis Allen wanted somebody with experience there. He values that position, that coach in his staff, and he was determined to find somebody that had skins on the wall, and Chris Richard has that. I mean, at one time, he was interviewing for head coaching opportunities around the league. Very well thought of, and a guy that has kind of a discipline in a lot of different defensive schemes, which is also important because of the multiplicity that Dennis Allen uses in his defense. They kind of bounce around between different schemes. So I think it was a home run get for them. And to be honest with you, I'd forgotten about Chris Richard. He wasn't on my radar screen And when I heard the name last week, I thought, wow, that makes perfect sense considering where Aaron Glenn was at in his career to get a veteran guy in there. And look, they've still got a couple more hires to go. And I think we could see some more veteran-type names come in on this staff as well.
Do you have any ideas on who those names might be?
Well, I've got names. I can't reveal them yet, but
Okay.
there's one could be a big name. Let me just put you. Let me tease you that way.
Okay,
could be a big name
dude.
coming in.
I like it. At Jeff Duncan _ make sure to follow Jeff, follow his work on The Athletic. And, okay, you've piqued my interest, Jeff. Jeff, do you have any interest in going to see Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring with IMAX and me Saturday night? Being re-released in theaters, first time ever in IMAX?
I would love to see that. Those were the first novels I ever read, T-Bob.
What?
The Lord of the Rings
Come on.
trilogy. Yeah, yeah. Hobbit and all. That was like back when I first started getting into reading those novels, when I could sit down and actually have the attention span to dive through them. And they just captured me. It was such incredible writing, and seeing them now on the big screen, I mean, there's just nothing like it. The film work is just spectacular. So I would love to see that, although Saturday night, I'm busy, unfortunately.
Well, okay. Yeah, classic how that ended there. The vague, I'm busy. That's great. But look, just look. I'm not saying we have to see it together, but just know that it's out there. This weekend and next weekend, they're releasing it in IMAX. It's going to be awesome. Shout out to Professor Tolkien. Shout out to Peter Jackson, the Masters. All right, Jeff, you have a great day. Thank you so much for waking up with us this morning.
Yeah, anytime, T-Bob. You take care, buddy.
Yes, sir. See you, dude. Musa. Jeff,
like how you just throw in there that they're also coming out next weekend too, and you told me that it wasn't.
No. Fellowship is only this weekend, and then Two Towers and Return of the King are next weekend, which seems a bit odd to me because that means they're trying to make me commit to 7 hours on a Saturday. I would have liked to split that up over 3 Saturdays ideally, but it is what it is, Musa. We're going to have to do this Saturday, and then we're going to have to do 7 hours next Saturday.
That's no chance in hell.
I don't make the rules. I don't make the rules. I just enforce them.
No.
Okay? It's like it's like how I treat the Degeneration Dome. I take the Joseph Smith techniques, right? I say I don't make the rules, I just enforce them. I get the rules from God, but guess what? Only I can talk to God. So, hey, I mean, it's the rules are the rules. And we'll close out the show. We'll get back here on OTBOT.